All right, let's dive right in. Have you ever stopped to think that the tiny gears inside a watch could somehow be connected to the giant, sweeping cycles of human history? It sounds like a pretty wild idea, right? Well, that's exactly what a researcher named Adiat Koto proposed. And his entire theory, this whole incredible journey, it all kicks off with one simple but really profound question. Seriously, think about that for a second. How can a machine, a purely mechanical object sitting on your wrist, know that February of 2028 is going to have 29 days? We're talking no computer chips, no Wi-Fi, no connection to anything. It just knows. It almost feels like magic, doesn't it? And it's exactly that mystery that kicked off this entire investigation. You see, the search for an answer to that question, well, it ended up being about so much more than just clever engineering. As Kawatoto puts it, it became a full-blown expedition, one that started to reveal this hidden structure, an underlying architecture to time itself. And get this, it's a structure that might just be influencing everything, from the calendar on our wall to the global economy. So, the key to this whole puzzle, it lies inside this mechanical marvel, the Perpetual calendar watch. And I want you to forget about it as a luxury item for a minute. Think of it as a piece of evidence, a machine that has literally encoded the rules of time into its physical form. So, how on earth does it actually work? The secret sauce is this concept called mechanical memory. Now, this is crucial. The watch doesn't calculate the date like a computer would. It remembers it. The knowledge is physically baked into the shape of its gears and levers. It's like a key that only fits a specific lock. And there's one component in particular that is the absolute hero of the story.
Okay, so this right here is the 48-month cam. You can think of it as the watch's mechanical brain. It's this one little disc, and it rotates incredibly slowly, just once every 4 years. And as it turns, there's a tiny little lever, a feeler, that just rides along its edge, reading these 48 different steps that are carved into it. You see, the height of each and every step is a physical instruction. It literally tells the date wheel how many days are in the current month. It's a 4-year calendar, programmed into a piece of metal. I mean, how clever is that?
And it's so beautifully simple when you break it down. If the lever hits a tall step, that signals a 31-day month. Simple. If it hits a shorter step, that means it's a 30-day month, or maybe a normal February. And that one extra short step, you guessed it, that's for the 29th day of February in a leap year. All of this complex calendar information, it's all just encoded in simple physical shapes.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's clever, but why go to all this trouble? Well, here's the thing. This incredible machine isn't just solving some trivial human problem like, oh, I forgot what day it is. No, it's solving a cosmic one, a fundamental challenge of astronomy that has been a headache for civilizations for thousands of years. And this number is the culprit, 365.2425. That's how many days it actually takes for the Earth to go around the Sun. It's not a nice, clean 365. It's got this messy little fraction on the end. And that tiny cosmic inconvenience is the entire reason our calendars are so complicated. It's the whole reason we even need leap years in the first place. So to deal with that pesky fraction, the Gregorian calendar came up with this really elegant set of rules. You add a day every 4 years. That's our leap year. But you skip it on years divisible by 100, unless that year is also divisible by 400. It's this beautiful, precise code. And it's this exact code that the watch's mechanical memory has to copy perfectly. Okay, so let's recap. We've got this 4-year cycle, right? It comes from the Earth's orbit, and it's physically encoded into the gears of a watch. But here is the major twist in Koto's theory. He argues that this rhythm, this 4-year pulse, isn't just in our clocks and calendars. He says it shows up somewhere else entirely, in the world of politics and high finance. He points to something called the U.S. presidential market cycle. Now, this is a pretty well-documented pattern. It shows how the market tends to move in a 4-year rhythm that's tied directly to the election calendar. You got year 1, the post-election hope. Year 2, the midterm slump. Year 3, the pre-election recovery, and so on. A 4-year cycle with 4 distinct phases. Sound familiar? It's just like the 4-year cam in the watch. And when you look at the data, it's pretty stunning. This chart shows the average S&P 500 return for each year of that cycle, going all the way back to 1950. And just look, year 2, that midterm year, is clearly the weakest. But then, look at year 3, the pre-election year. It's by far the strongest, with an average return of nearly 17%. The big takeaway here is that this isn't just a random fluke. We're talking about a clear, powerful pattern that's held up for over 70 years.
Okay, so this is where the theory gets really practical and frankly a little bit personal. If these cycles are real, and if they're all interconnected, then we should be able to use them like a map to figure out where we are right now. So the big question is, what time is it on this grand cosmic clock?
Well, according to Kodo's research, we can actually find our temporal coordinates. Think of it like a GPS, but instead of giving you your location in space, it pinpoints your exact location in time. And just so we're all on the same page, for this explainer, we're using the specific date cited in the source material, which is June 12, 2025.
Okay, so let's start with the simplest cycle, the annual one. On June 12th, we're just under halfway, about 45% through the year. Easy enough. That's our first coordinate. But now, let's start layering on the bigger, more powerful cycles.
Next up, we overlay that 4-year political cycle. The year 2025 falls squarely into year 2. And remember what we just saw on that chart? That's historically the most challenging and volatile year for the markets. So now we've got our position locked in for the annual cycle and the 4-year cycle. But the theory says we need to zoom out just one more time.
And this is where Kodo's theory makes its biggest, boldest claim. It suggests that our spot in these smaller cycles is itself nested inside a much, much larger pattern. We're talking about a massive 80 to 100-year historical shift, something generational theorists call a great turn.
So what is that exactly? Well, this theory argues that history isn't just random. It moves in these long 80 to 100-year cycles, and each one of those cycles ends in what's called a fourth turning, or a crisis period. And look, we're not just talking about a normal recession or a bit of political bickering here. These are profound, fundamental turning points, where the old way of doing things, old institutions, they just break down under the stress. It's a time of crisis that clears the way for a whole new social order to be built. To get a sense of the scale, think about periods like the American Revolution, or the era spanning the Great Depression and World War II.
Let's put that in perspective. Think about the last major great turning, back in the late 1800s. What was driving it? Game-changing technologies like electricity and mass-produced steel. The theory suggests we are living through a parallel moment right now. But today's transformative technologies, there are things like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotechnology.
And so, this is the theory's breathtaking conclusion. It all ties together. The same simple mechanics that allow a watch to track a 4-year leap cycle are echoed, like a resonance, in the 4-year political and market cycle. And that cycle is nested inside the massive 80-year great turning of history. From the tiniest gear to the markets, all the way up to the fate of civilizations, the idea is that it's all interconnected by what Kodo calls the sacred mechanics of time.
So that leaves us with one final, very provocative question to think about. Kodo's work, when you get down to it, isn't just some abstract intellectual exercise. It's offering us a framework, a new lens for understanding the world around us. It suggests that time itself has a rhythm, a pulse, a beat. And so the question for every single one of us is, can we learn to hear that rhythm and move in harmony with it? Or are we just going to be swept along by these powerful, invisible currents that we fail to even see?